Well, good morning. Good morning. Maria McFadden Maffucci is editor-in-chief of the Human Life Review, which was founded in New York City in 1975 and has been the only publication of its kind in the world. An academic quality journal devoted to civilized discussion of legal, philosophical, medical, scientific, and moral perspectives on all life issues. She is president of the Human Life Foundation, a nonprofit which publishes the review and offers charitable grants for pregnancy resource centers. Mrs. Maffucci is a regular blog on Newsmax devoted to life, and her articles and editorials have appeared in Human Life Review, First Things, National Review, and Verily. A Holy Cross graduate with a BA in philosophy, she is married to Robert E. Maffucci and mother of 3 children. Please join me in welcoming Maria McFadden Maffucci.
It's great to be here, and I am not going to talk about how bad the laws are for life in New York State. No, we all know that. I am here to talk about how many things you can do to fight for life in New York State, that you can be part of the resistance. And it's a great time to speak to you because I just got back from the marvelous March for Life in Washington, D.C., where President Trump made history by being the first sitting president to address the rally in person. Just curious, how many people have been to the march in DC? So I meet people who are very discouraged in my line of work, and if they haven't been, they have no idea. And when you go down there, it's just absolutely amazing how many people are there, and equally as amazing that the media pretends it doesn't exist. Everyone in DC knows it exists because it fouls up traffic, Union Station is overrun with kids, and now it's grown into almost a week of activities and conferences. Everyone there knows, and there's this conspiracy of silence. I think the liberal press is saying 100,000. I think Students for Life said 225,000 this year. I was there. The line was endless. And not only that, but it's peaceful. It's joyful. Everyone is thanking the cops. It gives you such a great feeling because you know you're not alone. And often in New York especially, we can feel alone. Of course, the media had to cover it a little bit this year because of President Trump. But not much. However, I'd just like to point out that even a Democrat, pro-life Democrat, Senator Katrina Jackson, who was there at the rally, said that she was ecstatic that a president would attend. She said, we finally have a sitting president at the March for Life. As I watched the endless throngs saying Roe v. Wade has to go, I marveled that for 47 years we have come out to protest this horrific Supreme Court ruling, and it doesn't matter that the media doesn't cover it, the crowds grow every year. So this would probably be a good time to tell you a little bit about my history because it's really intertwined with yours and the Conservative Party. My late father, J.P. McFadden, came to New York to meet Bill Buckley in the late 50s, and when he met him, he said, I have to work for this man. He's the only man I've met who's smarter than I am. So my dad was not always a humble man, but he started a National Review in the beginning, and he realized that they needed someone to sell it, and so he tried to start selling it, and lo and behold, found that he was actually a direct male genius and a genius at promotion. And so, as George Marlin wrote in his book about the beginning of the Conservative Party, my dad wrote the first promotional campaign, I guess in '69, to get people interested in founding the Conservative Party. So while my dad was at National Review for many years, in 1973, when the Roe v. Wade decision was handed down, he was just absolutely shocked, stunned, floored. He couldn't believe that the Supreme Court would put its moral weight against the killing of infants in the womb. And so when he started the lobbying office right away called the Ad Hoc Committee in Defense of Life, and then a year later he started the Human Life Foundation, all with Mr. Buckley's blessing, all with the National Review staff, and with greats like Tom Boland, the late Tom Boland, another, luminary in the Conservative Party with him. Our very first issue was in winter of 1975, and the first article was the testimony of another of your wonderful heroes in line, Jim Buckley, then Senator, now Judge Jim Buckley, who, in 1975, I just want to quickly read you the first paragraph, and I will watch my time. This is what he said, and it's so prescient and so true. The Supreme Court, in a pair of highly controversial, precedent-shattering decisions, Roe v. Wade and Doe against Bolton, ruled that a pregnant woman has a constitutional right to destroy the life of her unborn child. In so doing, the court not only contravened the express will of every state legislature in the country, it not only removed every vestige or legal protection hitherto enjoyed by the child in the mother's womb, but it reached its result through a curious and confusing chain of reasoning that logically could apply with equal force to the genetically deficient infant, the retarded child, or the insane or senile adult, all of which is happening now. Under Cuomo's law, of course, the Reproductive Health Act, so genetically defective infant can actually be left to die after surviving an abortion attempt. As I said, President Trump made history being the first sitting president to address the rally in person. At the Human Life Review, we also made history because in 1983, President Ronald Reagan wrote for the Human Life Review, and we turned that article, Abortion and the Conscience of the Nation, into a book, and he was the first sitting president to write a book while he was president. So that's our history. My father passed away in 1998, and I took over the helm. And so because of my family being in this for so long, and despite the really awful blows that we have endured, especially in this state recently, I'm here to share with you areas of great hope. So, what can we all do? Number one, show up. That's what today is about. That's what the march is about. And we have a great opportunity to show up in Albany on May 18th when we have our own New York March for Life. Most New Yorkers and most Americans, polls show time and time again, are uncomfortable with most abortions. And they are certainly not comfortable with the horrible Reproductive Health Act that our governor not only passed, but disgustingly celebrated by lighting up our Freedom Tower, paying for Planned Parenthood. The problem is, as some of the other speakers have said, people are afraid to speak out because the media, the entertainment industry, and our own politicians are so quick to call us haters or bigots or against women. So we have to start showing up and giving others courage. At the same time, we have to show up in our personal and our community lives. For example, how many people here know where the closest pregnancy center to them is? Great. And do you know what you would say to a family member or friend who came to you and said she was feeling pressured to have an abortion? And I would recommend that the March for Life this year, it was a pro-woman theme. They talked a lot about feminism. One of the speakers, Sue Ellen Browder, said we have to take the F word back, feminism. And there are some wonderful groups out there with some great slogans. One of them is, abortion is a symptom of women's oppression, not a solution to it. Another one was, a child doesn't ruin a woman's life. An employer who does not allow her to be pregnant on the job or discriminates against her can ruin her life. So we need to learn how to speak to people in a compassionate and yet truthful way. And at the same point, the next session is on assisted suicide, which is really just doctor killing. It's not. Do we have people we know who might be terminally ill and depressed, or people who are depressed? do we know what to say to them? Do we know what resources we can send them to? Because this is crucial. Lives, I'm not a legislator, I'm not a politician, but as a person, a woman, lives are saved one at a time. Lives are saved because the culture from the ground up knows how to encourage life. And that's something, no matter how distressed we can get about the legislature, we can all save lives or try to save lives in our daily lives. And as the Jewish proverb says, he who saves one life saves the world. But that is where the energy is going to come to really fight the top. It's going to come from both ends, but we've got to make sure that we have sort of the conviction and the willingness to speak out in our own lives. And Kathy Gallagher of the Catholic Conference has this flyer in all of your folders, and we talked. We said a lot of people are very depressed and almost despairing about the state of life in the state, and we don't have to be. There are many things we could do, and she has many terrific suggestions here. So we need to show up. This is a resistance, and we need the grassroots energy for the resistance. Also, when we fight in politics, in the courts, it's good to have stories. Your leader, Jarrell Kassar, had said to me that the favorite part he liked in the Human Life Review, we have many different kinds of articles, but we often have personal stories. He said, those are like a shot of vitamin B12 for a pro-lifer, and they are. People listen to stories, so again, if you're giving this political speech, tell a story, better yet have someone tell their own story, but tell a story and make sure it's backed up. For example, on the day of the march, in USA Today, there was a story, I was an abortionist, the abortion industry isn't willing to prioritize patient safety. Now the law that's going before the Supreme Court in March, Louisiana law, is something pro-lifers have been trying to find common ground with pro-choicers, and that is safety for women in the abortion clinics. Women died in Gosnell's horrific organization because the hallways weren't big enough to get gurneys through. So the Louisiana law is asking that abortionists have admitting privileges at nearby hospitals because they don't now. It's all anonymous. You leave the abortion clinic, you have a problem, you go to the ER. There's no doctor following you and talking to the hospital doctor. That's one of the huge and horrible things about the so-called pro-choice movement is that women get hurt every day because they're afraid that any little common ground legislation is going to hurt this great right to abortion. So this is a woman who was an abortionist, and her opening line is, I've killed more people than Ted Bundy. Yeah. Coming to terms with the fact that I was a professional mass murderer was devastating, but it compelled me to speak the truth. She says 3 patients, she had a long history as an abortionist while she had abortions, at least one, and had her own children, and she admits she really didn't see a conflict. But she said, I was preparing to perform an abortion on the first woman when I realized I had already performed 3 on her in the past. She was using abortion as birth control. I protested doing the 4th, only to be told by my boss that I had no right to deny it to her. Easy for you to say, you're not the one doing the killing, I snapped back. I did the killing, but my response startled even me. So if you read the article, she goes on to say how she gradually became pro-life, and now she is a pro-lifer and I believe running a pro-life pregnancy center. So she's someone who's been there. You cannot argue with her experience. You may not like where it leads her, but you cannot argue with her experience. So that brings me to my other bit of advice. Be brave, expose the lies, tell the truth with compassion and civility. Now this can be hard. It can be hard in my own personal life. I don't tell people first thing off that I'm a pro-lifer, like when my kids were little, because I thought they'd think I was a bomb thrower or something, you know, and it's hard to have people look at you and think that you're, you know, a bad person, a hater, a bigot. But if we try to speak the truth with civility, we will be surprised at how many people we can talk to. We have to be informed. And there are so many things in New York State that we could really be informed about. Like our governor is so proud of himself that we passed the first law to declaw, against the declawing of cats. He actually said it is a cruel and inhumane practice. In New York City, we cannot force feed geese because de Blasio and because that's an inhumane practice. Of course, the fancy restaurants are upset. But the same de Blasio is offering any woman who comes to New York a free abortion, which goes back to the immigration discussion. But in Cuomo's law for the Reproductive Health Act, up to 9 months, fetal pain is treated as a non-issue. Somehow they just don't really exist until you want them, okay? But a recent study, I think just a couple weeks ago, came out in a Journal of Medical Ethics, written by a pro-choice researcher and a pro-life researcher. And they said they can no longer say with certainty that a fetus does not feel pain before 24 weeks. So we need to be bold and say, Cuomo, why are you against babies? Why are you in favor of this inhumane treatment of our littlest humans? Cuomo, why are you against motherhood? We have to call him out, and we have more garbage coming out of, especially New York City, from our entertainment industry, which is the whole abortion is funny campaign, shout your abortion. There are comedy shows on the road right now. Remember when Michelle Wolf at the White House Correspondents' Dinner said, about abortion, don't knock it till you try it. She recently said that having an abortion made her feel powerful, like God. These are very wounded women, and I have to remind myself to be compassionate because they make me so angry. But many people don't know about these campaigns they did. The abortion, shout your abortion movement and don't be shamed by abortion actually shames the millions of women who do regret their abortions or who were coerced into abortions or pressured or found out they couldn't have children after they had an abortion. They are accusing us of shaming women while they are shaming women, and we have to stand up as women and men and say, no, abortion isn't funny. Even if you're pro-choice, it's not funny. Divorce isn't funny. You wouldn't have a divorce is funny campaign. So it's just really simple. So now comes to fighting back. These are all ways we can fight back. But there are, of course, legislative ways to fight back. So I think you've probably heard about another bill that Governor Cuomo passed called the Boss Bill, which basically makes it illegal for pro-life organizations to discriminate for someone's reproductive health beliefs, which means that like a Catholic hospital, I guess, a pro-life cannot have a code of ethics saying that our employees have to believe in the sanctity of life. It means, I suppose, that if I were at the Human Life Foundation, we're looking for an employee and someone came in from, abortion access front, that I wouldn't be able to not hire that person because her views were intrinsically opposite mine. This is crazy stuff. And this Boss Bill came, I guess there was a trio, the Reproductive Health Act, I think in contraception, in insurance, but in any case, this is a terrible law, and the good news is that there are some organizations fighting it. Many of you know Chris Slattery, pro-lifer in New York State, who's just opening a new clinic in White Plains. He is fighting this law with the Thomas More Society. And then, as reported in the New York Post, Alliance Defending Freedom has taken on the case. They are a wonderful organization, and they are taking on the case with pregnancy centers in New York to fight this law. So we need to find out about these things and support the people who are fighting. Blog and Newsmax. The most popular thing I wrote by far, like heads above all the others, was when I wrote about Putnam County. I don't know if anyone here is from Putnam County, but soon after the Reproductive Health Act was enacted, Putnam County took a very brave role, and the legislature passed a resolution against it. This was Planned Parenthood, when they first talked about it, Planned Parenthood was out in force. I went on April 2nd to see them actually pass the resolution. It was packed with pro-lifers, also with the other side. That kind of thing might not seem like it makes a big difference because it's not affecting the law today, but it's the kind of spark that starts a fire, and we really have to start some fires. So I want to take questions. So I want to end there, but I just want to say again that we have to stand up, we have to be brave, we have to fight back. I have a flyer that we're giving out. Human Life Review Online has lots of information, blogs, and there's space there for a sample issue. We have all the archives online, so you can look up 45 years of our history. And I have some copies of this that we made for the March for Life, and we gave out, and it's called The Language Game of Choice, 13 Logically Distorted Arguments for Abortion and How to Refute Them. And even myself, when you're put on the spot and you're feeling nervous, there are just some great arguments, not religious, just sensible, like is a toddler worth less than a teenager because a toddler is smaller? No, but so a fetus is smaller. The quality of a person's life doesn't depend on their location, on their size, or their color, or their ability, etc. So thank you for listening, and I would be happy to take
any questions for Maria? Anybody got any questions?